David's channel. By the request of one of our subscribers, I am going to develop today the pages 64 and 65. We are going to be working on that. As you can see, it's a reading that is called Mr. Garcia's Tree. The main thing that we got to do in this reading exercise is understanding the purpose of the author when they write something. Yes? Esto entonces es para reconocer el propósito del autor cuando escribe. So it says here, authors have a purpose when they write a text. It might be to give us facts and information, or to give us their opinion. Sometimes it's also to teach us lessons about life. And the last but not least is to entertain us. That's, for me, one of the best, because I love to have fun when I read. So let's check this reading really quickly, and that way we are going to see what the questions are in the next page. This is the Logcompass page, pages 64 and 65. Estas son las páginas 64 y 65 del Logcompass en el Level 3. Este es el que utilizamos para el grado tercero, pero en algunos colegios puede que lo utilicen para otros grados, dependiendo del énfasis y del nivel. All right, let's go ahead with it. It says, Mr. Garcia lived alone in a small wooden house with a big front yard. There weren't any flowers, but there was one beautiful apple tree. It was as tall as his house. Mr. Garcia spent hours looking after his tree every day. What a beautiful tree, he said himself. This is the most valuable tree in town. Mr. Garcia didn't talk to his neighbors. Morning, they called as they passed his front yard, but he never replied. They all thought he was the rudest man in the neighborhood. The local children were scared of Mr. Garcia. When they were playing in the street, he shouted, "Be quiet!" and then at them angrily. Charlie Brackett wasn't as scared as the other children. He always stopped to say hello. Sometimes Mr. Garcia looked up, but he usually didn't notice Charlie. He was too busy with his tree. Charlie wondered why he spent so much time under the tree. It must be very boring spending all day, every day under there, he thought. On one autumn day, Charlie was passing Mr. Garcia's house when he heard a noise. Mr. Garcia was kneeling. Eso significa cuando uno se arrodilla o estar arrodillado. He was kneeling under the tree and he was crying and shouting. "What's the problem?" asked Charlie. "My money! Look, the rats ate my money! Those pesky rats!" Charlie looked at the ground. There were lots of tiny pieces of paper. Charlie looked at the ground. There were lots of tiny pieces of paper means that he took a look and there were many pieces of what looked like money. Yes? So, it looks like Mr. Garcia here was hiding something. He wasn't actually taking care of the tree. "Why didn't you keep your money in the bank? It's safer there." "I don't like banks, kid, but what a disaster." Mr. Garcia looked really sad. "So the rats ate your money?" said Charlie. "But the situation isn't as bad as you think. Tell me this. What did you do with that money?" Nothing. I just guarded it and worried about it." "Then what was it good for?" "Nothing, I suppose. I never used it," said Mr. Garcia. "You were rich, but you were stingy and unhappy, so your money was worthless. But now the things are different. Maybe you can be happy. Good luck." Mr. Garcia sat under his tree for a long time thinking. The next morning, Mr. Garcia was in the front yard as usual. A neighbor walked past his house. "Good morning. What a lovely day," said Mr. Garcia. "Would you like an apple from my tree?" "Thank you," said his neighbor, surprised. That kid was right, thought Mr. Garcia. Now I am poor, but I am generous and I'm happy. All right, that was a beautiful story. And now let's see what the what the book has for us. The exercises of the reading comprehension come in the next page, which is the 66, la página 66 de nuestro language log en el Logcompass. Let's check it out. It says, read the story again and complete the sentences. There was one beautiful tree in the front yard. Then it says, Mr. Garcia's neighbors thought he was the person in the neighborhood. The other children were more of Mr. Garcia than Charlie was. Charlie told Mr. Garcia that his money was... Mr. Garcia felt when he gave an apple to his neighbor. Okay, we are going to solve these exercises in a second. What we got to do is try and find sentences that look similar to this on the previous page, on the reading, exactly on the text. So it says there was one beautiful tree in the front yard. If we go back, we can see that they mean the variety of the tree. It says Mr. Garcia lived alone in a small wooden house with a big front yard. There weren't any flowers, but there was one beautiful apple tree. Yes, so there we go to the next page, and what we gotta put here is there was one beautiful apple tree in the front yard. Yes. Now the second one says Mr. Garcia's neighbors thought he was the person in the neighborhood. Remember that we were reading that he didn't say hello to his neighbors when they came by? Well, he is the rudest person. The neighbors thought that he was the rudest person in the neighborhood. And let me show you again. The word rudest is right here. When the author is telling us that he didn't reply to their greetings, and you have it here, the rudest person. Yeah, let's highlight it. That's the word you gotta put there, the rudest person. That means a person without manners, una persona sin modales, sin decencia para tratar a los demás. Recuerden que cuando ponemos esa EST estamos hablando del superlativo, es decir, estamos diciendo que no hay nadie que le gane en ese adjetivo, en esa cualidad, en este caso de ser poco amable, de ser rudo, de ser grosero. So he was the rudest person, or at least the neighbors thought he was. Then it says here, the number 3, the other children were more of Mr. Garcia than Charlie was. Charlie was not scared of Mr. Garcia as the other children were. So we can say here the other children were more scared of Mr. Garcia than Charlie was. Let me show you again that word. You know that when you feel afraid of something or someone, you say you're scared of. Scared of. So this is the word that you gotta put there. Sorry, the selection just failed. But this is the word, scared, when you feel afraid of something. Or someone, in this case, Mr. Garcia was the scary person for the kids. Then it says Charlie was not as scared as the other kids, so the word we put there is the other children were more scared of Mr. Garcia than Charlie was. Then, number 4, Charlie told Mr. Garcia that his money was, well, I remember that clearly, worthless. Worthless means without value, sin valor, inútil. Yes? I think we have it here right on this part. Worthless, that's right. This is the word. When we say something is worthless, we say it doesn't cost anything, well, in the bad sense. Es inútil, no tiene valor. ¿Sí? El dinero que tenía Mr. García enterrado bajo este árbol, pues no tenía ningún valor, solo era un artículo para preocuparlo, porque él estaba ahí pendiente, se perdía su vida solamente por estar cuidando su dinero, pero con ese dinero no hacía nada, entonces era simplemente papel enterrado. So the word worthless means without value. That means useless, nothing. Right. Let's continue with the 5th question, and it says Mr. Garcia felt when he gave an apple to his neighbor. Let's see what the author says. I guess he felt happy or he felt generous. Let's see. We have Mr. Garcia sitting there thinking about everything, and then he says, "Good morning, what a lovely day. Would you like an apple from my tree?" And "Thank you," said his neighbor, surprised. That kid was right, thought Mr. Garcia. Now I'm poor, but I'm generous, and I'm happy. So we can say that the word that we can put there in the last one is happy. Yes? Mr. Garcia felt happy when he gave an apple to his neighbor. That was pretty easy, right? Now we gotta find the money adjectives in the story. Match them with the pictures. We have a classy person here with a big house. Then we have a jewelry, which is like a store where they sell pieces of jewelry, where they sell luxury things to decorate your bodies, normally earrings, necklaces, or bracelets. Yes? Then we have somebody here counting the money with a funny face. I would say this word is stingy, but let's see what happens next. We have to check it out. Then number 2 shows a person which looks more humble than the one on the number 1. We have these broken bills, and we also have a person giving money to another person on the street. So we gotta look for those adjectives in the story. We gotta match them with the pictures. Yes. We have some money adjectives here, which are generous, poor, rich, stingy, valuable, and worthless. Yes. What do you think it goes here? The number 1, I would say, he looks rich. He looks rich, so this word is the one that we might be putting here on the first space, rich. The second says jewelry. I would say the word that you gotta put there is valuable. Valuable on the number 3, because those things are really pricey. Those things are worth a lot of money, so you gotta give a lot of money to get them. So that's what we call valuable. Cuando estamos en el aeropuerto, cuando estamos en algún mercado o en algún centro comercial, siempre escuchamos anuncios por los parlantes que nos piden que cuidemos nuestros objetos de valor. A eso se le llama en inglés the valuables. Yes, so be careful with your valuables when you are in the shopping mall, when you are in the airport. Don't leave your suitcase around without any supervision. Yes. Now the number 5 here, I'm sorry, I'm solving 1, 3, 5, then 2, 4, 6. The number 5 here, he looks like he wants all the money for himself. He looks evil. So there I would put this word, stingy. Stingy is a person who wants everything for him and he doesn't want to share. He wants to keep it just there, just like that. That's a stingy person. Yes? Es una persona tacaña, es una persona que quiere tener el dinero ahí, no soltarlo, agarrarlo con todas sus fuerzas. Right. Then we have a person who looks a lot humbler than the one on the number 1. Sorry for the word pun there, the one on the number 1. So I would put there that compared to this guy, this other guy looks poor. So what you put there on the number 2 here is poor. Then if we have bills which are broken like this, we say they are worthless. Nobody's going to receive them in the store. Maybe this one has a couple broken areas, but it still works. It still works. The people in the store might get it from us, and they might give us the items we want, but the rest is just worthless. Ya no tienen valor el resto. So we put worthless. We put the word worthless on the number 4. And on the number 6, we put generous. Yes, this is the word that we put on the number 6 because this lady is giving money to a person who needs it. That person, this lady, is generous. Esta señora es generosa. So now the point number 3 says, find evidence in the story for these statements. Mr. Garcia is very proud of his tree. Yeah. Mr. Garcia is upset about what the rats did. Charlie thinks Mr. Garcia's money didn't make him happy. Mr. Garcia understood what Charlie wanted to teach him. Okay. When the book asks us to find evidence in the story about these statements is to look the area in the text where they are talking about this. Yes. The first one, Mr. Garcia is very proud of his tree. We go to the first part of the reading and we can discover that he's saying here in this second paragraph, what a beautiful tree, he said himself. This is the most valuable tree in town. You see, that's the evidence. That's the evidence that Mr. Garcia was proud of his tree. Esa es la evidencia de ese primer punto. Now, if we check the point number 2, Mr. Garcia is upset about what the rats did. La palabra upset significa triste o enojado, decepcionado. Eso lo podemos ver cuando Mr. García le cuenta al niño que las ratas se comieron todo su dinero. Vean aquí esa evidencia. My money, look, the rats ate my money, those pesky rats. Yeah, so Mr. Garcia is really, really sad about it. You can see his face right here. Nobody would be happy if they lose the money like that. Then, let's move on to the number 3. It says, Charlie thinks Mr. Garcia's money didn't make him happy. Of course, when we see that Charlie tells Mr. Garcia that the money was worthless, there we recognize that Charlie knows he was not happy. So you were rich, but you were stingy and unhappy. Here, you got all that evidence. Now, on the number 4, Charlie told Mr. Garcia that his money was, sorry, that was a point from another area. We were on the 4, but from this exercise. Mr. Garcia understood what Charlie wanted to teach him. Yes, that one is right in the end of the text, right here. The kid was right, thought Mr. Garcia. Now I'm poor, but I'm generous and I am happy. So all this is the evidence of that Mr. Garcia realized that Charlie was right. Yes. Then, the last point, discuss what is the lesson of the story. It's important to find a safe place to hide your money? If you don't use your money well, there is no point in having it, or the people are never happy with what they have. In my opinion, the true message of this reading is the number 2. If you don't use the money well, there's no point in having it. If you're going to have the money just there sitting at a place and you don't help anybody, you don't even use it for yourself or to make your family happy, there's no point on doing that. So what's the money for if it's not for making you happy, right? So I would choose, personally, I would choose the point number 2 here, which is, if you don't use your money well, there's no point in having it. Si no utilizas bien el dinero, no hay razón para tenerlo. Okay? So I'm sorry if I was very, very fast on this lesson. I just wanted to respond quickly to our subscriber. I hope that you find it useful, and see you next time. Bye-bye.